You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
Looks like we're live. We're going to kind of let this breathe for just a second, make sure we're all good across all platforms. Looks like we're pretty well good to go. Mile high hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, fun topic of conversation today. Bringing a little bit of history back to the future here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Just have a little bit of sad news for you guys listening in. Not going to go into too much detail on this, but this will be the last Dove Valley Deep Diver show on a Saturday. We will still continue to be live on Fridays going forward. And depending on how things go, we might come back on Saturdays. We're going to wait and see on that. But just for other reasons, we're just no longer going to be here on Saturdays, which is sad news. But hey, you guys still get us on Fridays.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit later. Let Chad kind of delve into some more of the finite details of what actually is going on. Sounds like Luke Patterson is going to be getting his own show and going on Saturdays. But in the meantime, again, we'll still be on Fridays at 6 o'clock like we are every single week for you guys, bringing you some deep takes and everything like that regarding your Denver Broncos. Now, before we get going, I do want to just say hello to everybody chilling in the room and say hello to Bawana Beast doing his thing, being the moderator for Mile High Huddle and the Huddle Up podcast. Biggie Bronco, Bronx legend, Stu McPeak coming in here early with an early generous super chat donation. Thank you, Stu. We appreciate you coming down, raining down like Zeus, as Zach likes to call him, coming off of Mount Rushmore. But anyways, guys, today we got an interesting topic of conversation. Which former Bronco, would you like to bring back, saying that he was in his prime, that could bolster this Broncos roster? And there's one that is really the easy kind of an answer here, especially given the state of affairs in the Broncos secondary right now. And that is, of course, good old number 24 Hall of Fame cornerback Champ Bailey. I mean, it's just the easy scheme fit. He was so scheme transcendent. And that 2006 season, I believe he actually had more interceptions than he allowed completed passes. Like, if we could bring that Champ Bailey back to this team, there's no way in my mind I would say no to that. Erick, what do you think?
I definitely agree. When I saw the question like this, but it was from any team to your current team, who would be that one guy? And I immediately went to Champ Bailey. And there was some conversation there about quarterback and offensive tackle and everything, which I completely understand. And we're going to talk about previous quarterbacks here in a little bit. But yeah, Champ Bailey was my number one guy. I mean, you talked about the scheme fit, but the bigger thing is that he's a guy who you're not going to have to worry about as a tackler. So that's the big thing there. Tackling is non-negotiable in Vic Fangio's defense. This guy was a tremendous tackler. He was so good against the run, which is one reason why he's one of the, in my opinion, a top 3 corner all time, and much better than Darrelle Revis, because Darrelle Revis wasn't known for his tackling, and he wasn't known for being his run defense. He was just a great cover corner. Champ Bailey did it all, and he did it all at a elite level. If you bring him in and you put him on this defense in this secondary with the pass rushers the Broncos have up front, is not only would we see more sacks, we'd probably see more turnovers too, and probably this whole defense be a top 10. I mean, not even top 10, a top 3 unit by the end of the season. He's just such a tremendous player that I don't see how it could be anybody but him.
No, I totally agree with that. Again, the run defense, the tackling, as a blitzer as well, coming off that corner blitz when he was playing in the slot. If he ever did get a chance to play in the slot, he was typically on the outside, but still, if he came on a blitz, you knew it was a sack. Champ Bailey was one of the better blitzers coming off out of the cornerback position. Again, a supreme tackler. Everything he did at the cornerback position was just amazing. I really wish that he would have been more willing to make that move to the safety position like John Elway wanted him to do towards the later end of his career. But I understand the money. John Elway wanted to make him take a pay cut, and it just didn't work out. There was some cap issues that had to come with that. But if you could get Champ Bailey in this defense, again, Vic Fangio and the way that he uses his cornerbacks, letting them eat just a little bit, get them off the ball a little bit, play that kind of deep zone, drive forward on the football. I mean, you could see double-digit interceptions from Champ Bailey this season if he was in that 2006 kind of a form. Now, going back a little bit further in this, and I saw there was somebody else that said, Delta O'Neal, please stop it. We don't want that. Going back just a little bit further, and may this young man rest in peace, man. The big smile on his face, big number 27, Darren Williams, man. I tell you what, that young man, when he broke into the Broncos and he was just drafted, I remember the guys in the local Denver media saying that just as a punt returner, not even as a cornerback, just as a punt returner, he was like the next Dante Hall, and he proved it. He was a very jitterbug kind of a player as a punt returner. He didn't have a whole lot of opportunities to do so, but every time he got back there, he made something happen. And, man, him with Champ Bailey in the early part of that tandem right there, you really couldn't have asked for a better player. And he was, again, scheme transcendent, young, bright guy, very intelligent, and played with just the biggest smile on his face. He loved the game of football, and he was taking this from this world far too soon. He had again, Bolana coming in here, he had so much potential. He would have been a superstar, and right now we would probably be seeing him towards the later end of his career had he still been alive. It's just that's a heartbreaking one, but if I had to bring anybody else other than Champ Bailey, Darren Williams would be a big one.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on Darren Williams, man. I remember waking up that morning and hearing the news, and I cried. I cried like a little baby about it, man. It was sad. He was just really starting to come into his own as a player and just taken too early. But another guy that I would look at too, especially with the Vic Fangio scheme, the use of three safeties and the big hitter himself, Steve Atwater, coming back, and him and Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson down being that number 3 safety. That would be a tremendous unit there. And talk about trying to sit there and pass against this defense. I mean, Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons are excellent in coverage, and Steve Atwater was very good himself. And then you have Steve Atwater coming down against the run, which was really his thing. Just would be really hard to move the ball against them. And you have that number, those 3 safeties there that Vic Fangio likes to use. And then you don't have to sit there and worry about your corners as much because, I mean, if Bryce Callahan gets down, well, you still have Kareem Jackson to play the slot. You have Michael Ojemudia that those guys can sit there and take over for and help cover, or AJ Boye that those safeties can cover for. Just it's kind of the similar line of thinking with Champ Bailey about just making this defensive secondary all that scarier and trying to take more advantage of the pass rush up front. But, man, those two guys, Champ Bailey and Steve Atwater, either one of them in this Broncos defense would make this defense from what I think will be a top 10 unit to a top 5, if not top 3.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Moving Kareem Jackson to that Will Parks role, that third, that nickel defensive back where he can play in the safety position, he can play in the slot, can also jump outside. He played outside a couple of times last year, and I think it was specifically in the Chargers game in Los Angeles. He shut down Keenan Allen a couple of times on the outside. He had such a monster game there. And if you can get another safety where he can play that third safety, that nickel defensive back role, that's where he's probably the best suited. I really like his fit there. He can play all over the defense. And Steve Atwater being that primarily box safety there. Yeah, I understand getting him back and let him hit some people and go after the football and stuff like that. But Justin Simmons, I saw an interesting statistic earlier today on Twitter. Now, I don't want to say that this is an absolute truth, but it was kind of something that I'd seen that with defensive backs across the NFL that had faced more than 40 targets total, Justin Simmons was the second lowest passer rating against in the NFL last year, and the first was J.C. Jackson up in New England. So Justin Simmons, as far as a coverage safety, is an absolutely amazing piece to have as that deep guy, that deep center fielder in Vic Fangio's defense. Steve Atwater probably wouldn't play that role. Now, guys, before we continue this on, I just want to make sure that, first off, let's get our superstars down there on the bottom of the screen. Make sure you guys, just a couple of quick matters of business here. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. Get at us at Sanderson MHH for me, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, make sure you guys are following at DVDD_pod. Here soon, guys, we are going to be doing a giveaway where we're going to give away at least a hat, maybe a t-shirt as well. We'll figure something out for you guys, get some more people following the show and stuff like that. But you have to be following me, Eric, and at DVDD_pod. Now, also, speaking of merch, if you guys are in a position to do so, get on over to huddleuppod.com, get your merch, get yourself a hoodie, get yourself a hat, do whatever you got to do to help support the show in that front. And if you can't do so, if nothing else, subscribe, like, and share. The 3 easiest things you can do to help us grow, to help us get into more viewers and everything like that. Subscribe on wherever you're watching, whether it be YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever that may be. Subscribe to Huddle Up Podcast, Mile High Huddle, and like every video you get. Smash that like button, beat it up, batter it, bruise it, do whatever you got to do. And if you really love what we're doing, share it out to all of your friends. Make sure we get in front of as many Broncos fans as possible. So, now, there was a couple of super chats really fast. Let's go and grab these really fast. Terry Randall coming in from Canada, showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a state of being. TD. Now, this is actually kind of an interesting one here. Terrell Davis, and yes, the Hall of Fame running back from back in the 90s, prolific runner, the best playoff running back we've ever seen. Just with Terrell Davis, and we kind of wanted to do this as far as this roster, and yes, Terrell Davis would make this roster absolutely amazing, but with Philip Lindsay already in the fold, Melvin Gordon getting paid a huge contract, Terrell Davis, yes, he would fit there, and he would probably kick Philip Lindsay out of the way. But just given what we have on the Broncos roster right now, the best upgrades that you could potentially have, TD just doesn't fit. We're trying to fill some holes here, not make strength an even bigger strength. So that's why we went with Champ Bailey, Steve Atwater, Darrett Williams. There's some more guys here, and I saw an interesting question here from Bawana Beast as well. Where would John Mobley fit in today's NFL? Now, Eric, I'm going to let you take this one while I go and grab. There was another super chat I got to go grab really fast.
He's an all right fit. I just wonder if he would be the best fit when it comes to taking coverage responsibilities in the modern NFL. I think that he would be just fine when it comes to his run defense. But yeah, it just comes back to what he would offer up in coverage. And I think that he would be okay, but I don't think he would be really what you're looking for.
No, I agree with that. He was a good coverage linebacker back in the days of lore, where he wasn't really tasked to cover tight ends across the middle of the field, and especially now where you have him as that primary coverage linebacker, where you're getting some guys coming out of the slot, those wide receiver shifty guys, Tyreek Hill, Julian Edelman, stuff like that. He's not athletic enough to fit that kind of a role. But if back in the day when he was covering just the Tony Gonzalez's of the league, and I don't even really know who else to even think of right now off the top of my head, but tight end usage in the NFL was more of that extra offensive lineman, and if they had the ability to move around like a Shannon Sharp, like a Tony Gonzalez, then sure, that was a great addition to your offense. But back in the 90s, tight ends weren't really featured in the passing game like that, so it's a hard transition to make. Now, David Kilgore coming in with a more recent guy, $2 donation here. Al Wilson, the linebacker from the early 2000s, as a two-down run thumper, absolutely. But you also have that right now already with Alexander Johnson and Todd Davis. You have that two-down run thumper that can come in and fill the gaps in the middle. Al Wilson bringing the leadership as well. Old Smoke Dog, man, I tell you what, he was so much fun to watch the way that he hit people. But as a coverage linebacker, he didn't fit either, and he doesn't fit in Vic Fangio's scheme, in my opinion.
Yeah, my big thing with any linebacker is just how much the game has changed from when these guys have played, that it just makes me question how they would fit in the modern game. And I think that, like Mobley, I think that Al Wilson would be solid in the NFL game, but I don't think he would be as good as he was, just because the time of that era of football just fit him so well. So with any linebacker, I'm going to have that kind of issue just because how much the game has changed. I mean, it's a far more athletic, it's a faster game than it used to be, and it's evolved even more into a passing league. And I mean, you still run, obviously, but gone are the days where you really utilize 2 and 3 tight end sets and a fullback as much as they used to. That it's just are they still a fit with how the game is? Are they those athletes that you really need at linebacker nowadays? And for their era, I'm sure they were good linebackers or good athletes for their era, but just not for the modern era.
Now, this is one that I actually kind of disagree with you on that as far as that goes. Ian Gold might have been one of the most athletic linebackers that the Broncos have ever had. Another guy that I really like, and I had him on the list we had just a small list of players that we would like to see come back. DJ Williams, number 55 from the early 2000s as well. I think it was like a 4.49 or something like that, 40, just an absolutely extremely athletic linebacker. If you could get him in Fangio's scheme, and he was pretty decent in coverage as well, the sideline to sideline, he could do pretty much anything that you wanted to do. I think that he would be a better fit. If I was bringing a linebacker back from the past, it would be Ian Gold or DJ Williams. Those would be the two guys that I'm thinking of. David Kilgore coming in with another one here. Neil Smith. How about the defensive line? This one is not really a good scheme fit to me. He was more of a true 3-4 defensive end, that 7 technique, more like attacking the offensive tackle than playing on the inside. If he could play that 5 technique position, that would be a very interesting one to me.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting name. But yeah, just with what they do now, I mean, he was, if I remember correctly, and I may be mistaken on this, he played a little bit lighter than what you want for your 3-4 defensive ends. I believe he played it like around 260 to 250, somewhere like that, a little bit lighter than what you want. So if it was a standard 4-3 front where you keep 4 defensive linemen, even if you're using 2 linebackers at 4-2, whatever the case may be, is he would fit that a lot better than he would now, and he'd be a great fit for that. But just with the scheme they run now, I'm just not so sold on it. And I saw somebody sit there mention about Steve Atwater as an inside linebacker for today's game, and I can't say I agree. I mean, the fact is while you need to be athletes at the linebacker position, you still need to have decent size for it. Steve Atwater, I mean, while he was a good size safety for that time, he's not that size that you want for an inside linebacker at this point. So I still like him. I'd still like him as a safety instead of an inside linebacker. Just that simple. I just don't think that he would be the best fit moving inside. I saw somebody else mention this about how talking about DJ Williams and Al Wilson and their 40 times and everything like that, is the issue that we have too, is that the 40 times is just straight line speed. And for linebackers, probably one of the more overrated things is because it's sideline to sideline. What's their 3 cone, stuff like that. That's what you care for more about with that. And nowadays too, is that even that speed is still low for linebackers, what you want. Now teams are looking for linebackers that are running right around 4.45 40s because of how the game has evolved and everything. So that's something else to look at. I mean, when I'm talking about linebackers, there are some exceptions. I do think that DJ Williams nowadays and Ian Gold nowadays could be very fine linebackers. I think that they would transition a little bit better than some other linebackers, but for the majority, like, you're just not going to find that many. And talking about a lot of offensive tackles, we actually had this discussion last night after we stopped being live, about Ryan Clady.
Yep, I saw the comment. Let me grab that really fast. James, yep, here it is.
I'm going to be I'm going to keep the super hot take part to myself, but I thought that Ryan Clady was a good offensive tackle, but I don't think he was like the best thing ever. I don't think he was as great as many other fans to make him out to be. He was good, and just a little bit overrated in my opinion. So I wouldn't go with him. Gary Zimmerman, I mean, either one of them obviously would be fine because you're upgrading Garrett Bowles. Sorry guys, had to say his name. But you're upgrading it, but I still think that with what he can do for you is still good enough to where you can go and get like Champ Bailey and just boost that a little bit. With the quarterback situation, the weapons, the offensive line as it is now can be fine. So if I'm able to pick one player, I want to go boost that area that I feel I'm the most concerned about, and that's the secondary. Bryce Callahan gets hurt, and AJ Boye gets hurt, or even just Bryce Callahan. Your cornerback depth is atrocious. Who's going to step up there? Your safety depth after Isaiah Simmons and Kareem Jackson is atrocious. Offensive line, yeah, you have some questions about tackle and everything, but you can just scheme past that. You can't so much scheme past it with the cornerbacks and the safety.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I totally agree with that 100%. Brian Greenfield, $5 super chat here. Brian, what's going on, man? How we doing today? Let's see. If we didn't just draft 2 tight ends in 2 years, I'd say Shannon Sharp, but I agree Champ is the best for need and one of the best and a great guy. Yeah, absolutely. The leadership ability that Champ Bailey brought, the overall leader aspect, kind of kept his mouth shut, let his play do the talking, didn't really get on people very often, was that silent leader. But again, his play was just so good that everybody wanted to be like him. I mean, Chris Harris Jr., when he first got into the NFL, was like attached to Champ Bailey's hip. Every single day in practice was asking him, how do I do this? What's the best way to do that? How am I going to be able to, if this is what I'm seeing, if this is what I'm reading, what's the best technique? And he really learned a lot from Champ Bailey, even in the short time that they were together. Like there was something about Champ Bailey and just the way that he was able to say very little, but express so much that people just flocked to him. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
On that note, too, is that's a whole other thing with bringing him in is what can Champ Bailey do to help Michael Ojemudia, potentially help Duke Dawson or Devonta Harris or Isaac Adam? What can he do to help them out? Because he was such a help for Chris Harris in his career, such a help for Darren Williams in his career. So it's more than just what they bring on the field, too, that I'm looking at. And Champ Bailey, he brings a lot off of it.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Here's one that I actually had at the bottom of my list here, right above this comment from Brian, from David again coming in here. Also could use Tom Nalen for our offensive line. I totally agree with that. Like early Tom Nalen, even though he was so small, he was so fiery. He's an amazing run blocker, really good pass protector, the leader of the offensive line. And I remember reading a very interesting story. This was right before Dan Neal actually left in free agency. There was a reporter coming in to talk to Dan Neal in the locker room, and Tom Nalen had his locker right next to him, and you could just see apparently that he was getting completely stewed up, like red in the face, shaking mad, because back in the day when Tom Nalen was the leader of that offensive line, they didn't talk to the media. You were not allowed to go and speak to the media. Now you see and this was actually a thing even back then, where the players themselves would, like, they introduced themselves on the Monday night, Sunday night games, where it's like, I'm so-and-so from this college. The Broncos offensive line didn't do that. They were not allowed to. Tom Nalen said, you keep your mouth shut and you go to work. And that offensive line back in the early 2000s with Tom Nalen at the helm of it, that offensive line was, again, very amazing. How many 1,000-yard rushers did they churn out behind Tom Nalen and crew? Like, what, 5 or 6 different ones, even after Terrell Davis? Like, him and his leadership and the ability to make 5 people one cohesive unit every single time they step down on the field, that is something that this offensive line needs a big shot in the arm about right now.
Yeah, and we got a donation from James, a good friend of the show and everything. Thank you for your donation. He says, to turn this question thread around a bit, what player from the past 5 years would you bring back, assuming they're in their prime? DeMarcus Ware?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking Malik Jackson. If you could get Malik Jackson in to play that 5 tech, I think he would fit pretty well.
I'd take DeMarcus Ware and just have some fun with NASCAR packages.
Yeah,
follow a little bit of what the Chargers are doing with Joey Bosa and having him be a down lineman and sometimes throw him and Melvin Ingram over to his side and both of them attacking that side, just giving the tackle just absolutely no kind of chance whatsoever. Doing that with like Von Miller, having him be the down lineman, or even Bradley Chubb, who's a little bit stronger, a little bit thicker, and then DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller as their edges. Just have fun.
Danny Trevathan would be a good one. Super Bowl 50 Danny Trevathan. His coverage ability. I mean, he went to Vic Fangio's scheme shortly after that and had a really good year. So why wouldn't you bring that in there from the last 5 years anyways?
And I guess Aqib Talib, I mean, the attitude sucked, but boy, his prime was just fantastic. He was an outstanding player in his prime. He had the most pick sixes over a certain amount of years. Aqib Talib's definitely another option as well. He definitely feel a bigger need than DeMarcus Ware would. And quite frankly, I completely forgot about Aqib Talib. Yeah, no,
Aqib Talib would be a really good one. If you could give me Demaryius Thomas circa 2013, I would probably put that on this roster. Honestly, as a leader back then, again, the Super Bowl 48 performance that he had, setting a Super Bowl record for most catches. He was the only one really that showed up in that game. But what he did 2013, 2014, around that time, I remember him taking a bubble screen to the house against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. He had another one against the Arizona Cardinals that went like 75 yards. And what did he have in that game? Like 235 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns or something like that. Absolutely phenomenal player. And DT, one of the very first people that I really got into scouting was Demaryius Thomas. That was the whole Des Bryant versus DT, who's going to be the first wide receiver off the board. And I was pounding the table on ESPN draft boards saying Demaryius Thomas is the guy. He is going to be a very good player. And you can argue semantics all you want to. Dez and his impact with Tony Romo, Demaryius Thomas with Peyton Manning and everything that they were doing in the early 2010s. Like there was something to be said about DT, and you could really argue that he had the better career out of the two. Now, To move this on, James coming in again with another £2 donation out of London, I believe is where you're at. Hashtag Lance's Diaper Fun, hashtag Erick's Tie Fun. We appreciate that, man. We appreciate you showing love and support and everything that you do on the Mile High Huddle Facebook page as well as a moderator up there. He is the Bawana Beast on that.
So, real quick, going back to this, what about Paxton Lynch for some quarterback competition? All right. I had to throw that out there just for fun.
Well, he and Garrett Bowles could play Fortnite.
He can sit there and dab on the sidelines, I suppose.
All right, Pobby coming in here. Pobby, one of the Huddle Up podcast Super Chat superstars, coming in with the $20 donation. Hey, we appreciate your generosity. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hi, guys. I just want to thank you all for all that you do. Keep up the good work. Go Broncos. Hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate you guys coming out and showing support and everything like that. The money means really nothing to us. Yeah, it's great to have it, but your guys' support and the appreciation that you guys have for us joining us every single night, that is really the biggest thing why we do this. And that's why it kind of breaks our heart that we're going to have to give up the Saturday show, at least for now. We're going to try to work our way and figure out another way to get some more Broncos content in front of you guys as well. So, but anyways, you guys know where we're at Friday nights at 6.
So also, how could I ever forget the wonderful Kyle Slaughter? I mean, this guy was going to be the future after just, 4 preseason games? He was the answer. There's also Machine Gun Kelly, Chad Kelly. Get him out there. Quarterbacks. Yeah. All these late-round quarterbacks or undrafted free agent quarterbacks fans seem to follow. Zach Dysert.
I got a good one here. I got a really.
If you say Trevor Siemian, I'm leaving.
No.
That's the one I won't take.
No, this one's from a while ago. Former first-round pick, by the way. Former first-round pick, Willie Middlebrooks. Let's put him in this Broncos secondary, see what he can do. Hell yeah, I'm about it. Now,
what's his name? Tom, the other late-round quarterback, Tom Brandstater. Brandstater, yeah.
I believe Fresno State, right?
I can't remember where that. I can't remember. Actually, so here's one too. Is Bradley Van Pelt? That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Bradley Van Pelt.
No, I really wish.
Tim Tebow, there we go. Yeah, Tim Tebow.
I wish that the Broncos would have spent a late round flyer on Brett Smith, because I swear to God he was going to be something special in this league. All right,
Jake Plummer's actually a very interesting one. Instead of going with the big quarterbacks, John Elway or Peyton Manning, Jake Plummer is actually a very interesting one.
Yeah, it is.
We had a couple more super chats here that I'll pull up here real quick. Terry Randall, hashtag Erick Ties Rock. Come on, James, with the $2. Thank you for that. Terry Randall also, State of Being, hashtag State of Being, hashtag Broncos. Terry, as always, you're a wonderful supporter of the show, and not just ours, but all of them. And always, you are proof that Broncos country isn't a geographical location; it is a state of being.
Yep.
And then absolutely. James Campbell with another $2 donation. Hashtag Erick's Tie Rocks. Hashtag sorry Terry, I oofed. Hashtag Broncos World.
Man, sometimes the side conversations going on in the chat stream actually make this even more fun, because you get to follow what people are actually talking about and stuff like that. It's really good. Ginger Ninja 88 coming in here. Ginger, what's going on, dude? How you doing tonight? If we are taking personalities from the locker room, I want David Bruton Jr. for sure. Great guy, too. Broncos spirit, absolutely, man. I love David Bruton. A phenomenal special teams player, and honestly, if it weren't for like Matthew Slater up in New England, David Bruton might be that perennial Pro Bowl special teams player, and just an incredibly bright guy. Stepped away from football a little bit early just because he feared for his health, his mental health, and everything like that. He was a very big proponent of the concussion protocols and stuff like that. Very big activist about that, and he jumped away from football just because, kind of like Chris Borland in San Francisco, was scared of getting hurt and scared of having long-term mental damages and stuff like that. I don't remember what he majored in, but I know he graduated from the University of Notre Dame with it was like a business degree or a communications degree, something like that. So he had a life outside of football, and to preserve that as long as he possibly could, absolutely, man. I love David Bruton, just the fire that he played with, the leadership ability that he had. If you're again, Ginger's right. If you're taking personalities for the locker room, David Bruton's the guy.
So, fun fact about David Bruton is he actually, because when he was on the Broncos, he was very active on Twitter. And one time, I actually got into a conversation with him and Robert Ayers. I'm pretty sure it was Robert Ayers. Got into a conversation about them because David Bruton likes to travel the world, and so I mentioned to him both, and about it and coming up here to Alaska for fishing and everything, and both of them said that they wanted to. So, guys, if Robert Ayers or David Bruton, if you guys are listening to this, feel free to hit me up. My Twitter account is at Erick Trickel. I know a guy who has a boat, and we can definitely take you out halibut fishing. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Fun fact about the guy who can do that: he actually played for the Oregon Ducks with Dan Fouts at the time. So,
I know what you're talking about.
And he played defensive back, so he was a cornerback. So, yeah, we can definitely get you out there on the boat if you guys are sitting there and are interested in that and happen to be listening to this.
So Bawana coming in. Sorry, I grabbed the wrong ones. They jumped up right in front. I was trying to grab this comment from Bawana. I got into a discussion with Jeb Putzier. Actually, so did I. This was 2013. The Broncos had just beat. They just beat the San Diego Chargers in Denver in the playoffs, and that was right after Chris Harris tore his ACL or partially tore it. I called into, I think it was 104.3 or whatever the hell show it was that Jeb Putzier was on as one of the co-hosts, and I gave him some grief because I was at the game in 2005 or 2006, something like that, where the New England Patriots came into town, and Ellis Hobbs absolutely took his head off. It was one of the most violent hits, and we were up in the nosebleeds, and I heard the pad-on-pad collision, and it was loud. You could hear it, and the crowd erupted. You could hear the pads hit, and I got into a conversation with Jeb Putzier about that, and my question to them was, how many catches did Keenan Allen get when Chris Harris Jr. was in the game? And I think he went out in like the third quarter or something like that. To that point, Keenan Allen locked up one-on-one with Chris Harris Jr., had 0 catches total. So it was kind of fun to get into a conversation with him and throw him a little bit of shade and bring back some bad memories for him anyways. But
this is the Overtime Podcast Network.
We talked about most of the guys that I have down on my list here. Let's see, who else can you think that you would be willing to bring into the Broncos just off the top of your head? I saw one here. Let me see if I can go find it really fast. Here we go. Jinja, again, coming in. How do you feel about Floyd Little? I mean, he's the franchise. I don't know what it would look like now, especially given the elite athleticism, the speed and stuff like that. Floyd Little, I know, was a very fast player. It could outrun pretty much anybody on the field. But without you being able to watch it live and know the speed of everybody else and stuff like that, it's really kind of hard to gauge on that one. But again, I'm gonna say the same thing I said about Terrell Davis on this one. Given the running back room for the Broncos right now, I probably wouldn't bring Floyd Little into it. I'd be looking to fill a hole. Again, we're trying to fill holes here, not make strengths even more strengths.
So I was going back through trying to find a question that I saw earlier, and I can't remember if we got this one, but Malcolm Brown came in earlier with a $2 donation saying, "Go Mariners, # Erick's tie-dye fund." And Malcolm happens to be in Homer, which I often refer to as tie-dye city. So
tie-dye city. That was so funny, dude. When we actually went through that and got the whole Homer is the hippie town and then the tie-dye city deal. If you guys were watching this live when that actually came across, I fell out of my chair. I was laughing so hard. Seriously, I had to mute my microphone for a second. It was absolutely hilarious. Let's see
here. Biggie Bronco actually has an interesting one.
I was about
changing it up a little bit and pick one player out of the Vic Fangio defense that's played for him in the past on this team. And this one's easy for me. This one's actually really easy for me. Justin Smith.
Yep, that's the exact same one I was going to. Justin Smith coming in to play that 5-tech. You bet your life I'm taking Justin Smith. Another one, Carlos Rogers. Quarterback in San Francisco as well. That would be a good fit as well.
Well, there's also all those linebackers that he had in San Francisco. Navarro Bowman,
Patrick
Willis. There we go. I couldn't think of his name. I could think of just Patrick Willis, or I couldn't think of Willis, just Patrick. Any of those guys too. But yeah, Justin Smith would be my guy. Just what he did for just everybody else on there. He was just he was the unsung hero of that defense, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Just watching him play, just a tremendous player, a tremendous 5-tech, just big guy, did the nitty gritty work. Patrick Willis, though, would be a really good one, too. And I think that he could really transition to the modern NFL because he was part of the change he was one of those players that brought the change about to what you were looking for in a linebacker with his coverage ability. And he would just be tremendous and retired early and just a great player, too. You couldn't go wrong with Patrick Willis or Justin Smith, really.
No, I totally agree with that. And Justin Smith, an extremely durable player, even into the late part of his career. I think he played 12 or 13 seasons. But just the ability of him to collapse the pocket in the passing game, but also hold up very well in the running game. He was a true 3-down durable player, never hurt. He had really helped Alden Smith come off the edge there as well. Who was the other guy? Ahmad Brooks was the other edge defender that was a really good one there. But still, Deshaun Goldson wouldn't have been a bad one from that San Francisco team circa 2012. Let's see here. I said Carlos Rogers. I know that he led the NFL in interceptions there for a little bit. There's a lot of really good former players, and those are just the ones where he was really highlighted in the 49ers. That doesn't even go deep into his past. Going into his past, man, I'd have to really think on that one. I'm not exactly sure where Vic Fangio's all been. I know he was in Indianapolis there for a little bit. Dwight Freeney wouldn't be a bad one. Bob Sanders, there you go. Yeah, Bob Sanders, give me that guy.
So David Kilgore comes in with a $5 donation saying, Jerry Rice and Jason Elam, we need a better kicker. It's always funny to me that how many Bronco fans forget that Jerry Rice was actually part of the Broncos for a very
yes, he was.
Briefly. As for Jason Elam, I definitely get where you're going with that, and can't say I disagree completely with that. Like, Jason Elam was a great kicker for so many years that, he just does so well. But the awesome thing about Jason Elam is he's actually lives in the local area around here. One of my old high school teachers, he coached at a high school that was called Skyview, and he coached soccer there. And Jason Elam's, I believe, son was on the soccer team. Can't remember if it was his son or daughter, but he'd always show down there, and he'd always give them advice on playing soccer and kicking soccer balls and stuff like that, just using his football background about it. So really cool Jason Elam story.
James Campbell coming in with another good one. This is the original lockdown cornerback, guys, that a part of the Orange Crush defense that featured Randy Gradishar, Rich Tombstone Jackson, Lyle Alzado, Lewis Wright, the original lockdown cornerback, way before my time. If I had any thoughts on that, I don't know. Again, this is going back too far, guys. It's way before my time as well. But still, with Lewis Wright and the coverage ability that he had as a true lockdown player, and those rules were a lot different. He was a really grabby kind of a player, very physical at the line of scrimmage, very physical down the catch point. I don't know his athleticism. And back in the 70s, we're talking about athletes that instead of running 4.2s, they're running like 4.6s, 4.5s. Like, there might be some guys that were running that fast, but really, I don't think it was like the norm where you're going to see guys in the 4.3, 4.4 kind of range like that as an athlete. It'd be hard to gauge that transition, but as far as a loose-hipped kind of a guy that can move backwards, move side to side, move laterally and stuff like that, really good tackler as well, he would probably be a pretty decent fit in the Broncos defense.
Yeah, I guess he would be a pretty solid one. I saw somebody ask about a punter. And that's actually very interesting one too. Todd Sauerbrunn is one that comes to mind, but there's actually a punter who's punting now that is one of the best punters in the NFL currently, and he was no, he was actually on the Broncos off-season roster and then got cut, and I can't remember who it was.
Brett Kern. Brett Kern.
Yeah,
he was from Tennessee.
Yep, Brett Kern. That was the name.
Yep.
So definitely that's a guy too.
I love Todd Sauerbrunn. He had arms like Ed Hockley, and he hit like a freight train. Him taking down, I can't remember if it was Ellis Hobbs or Kevin Falk in the 2005 divisional game in Denver, the one where Champ Bailey had the 104-yard interception return where he was tackled out of bounds at the 1 yard line. That game where they dethroned Tom Brady after their back-to-back Super Bowl wins and whatnot. Todd Sauerbrunn come down on a kickoff return and hit, I believe it was Kevin Falk, hit him so hard he fumbled in like the 25-yard line. The Broncos recovered and later scored a touchdown after that. Todd Sauerbrunn would be if I had to pick a punter in Broncos history, he would be my guy just because of that. He's like the Pat McAfee seriously, Pat McAfee laid that hit on Trendon Holiday, made him fumble out of bounds and whatnot. Todd Sauerbrunn being able to run around and lacing people out and hit somebody. He was built like a freight train, just hit like a hammer. Oh, I loved it. It was so fun.
Now here's a question for you, just evolving this a little bit. If you could pick one player currently playing off of any roster and put them on the Broncos. Not quarterbacks. We'll leave quarterbacks out of it because obviously if we're going to include quarterbacks, I'm pretty sure we both would say Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So, not including or Wilson. I mean, just there's a few quarterbacks that we can take. So any non-quarterback to fill a position of need, who would you bring in?
Man, that's a good question. My mind immediately went to the cornerback position. Just thinking of the top cornerbacks in the NFL right now, I would probably
Stephon Gilmore, Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, Stephon Gilmore, Tre'Davious White, Marshawn Lattimore, or is that his name? Is it? I can't remember if it's Marcus Lattimore. Marcus Lattimore's the running back that got his knee blown up. He was going to be an amazing player, but Marshawn Lattimore, Xavier Howard might not be a bad name to throw out there. Stephon Gilmore, Tre'Davious White, the kid in Marlon Humphrey, the cornerback in Baltimore would be a good one there. If I was going, Roquan Smith for a dark horse, that'd be a good one.
The one name that the very first name I came to, but the thing is that it's not really a big old need. But I mean, just this guy is just such a tremendous player that you want him on your defense, especially on that line. Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Fletcher Cox would be another good one there too.
Fletcher Cox would be a really good one.
Chris Jones.
Yeah, like there's just so many players, so many options about it. But so you have to pick one.
Here's the name everybody wants to hear. It is the name that everybody wanted.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that one.
I'm not going to pick that one just because it doesn't fit on this roster. I think that the great receiving aspect, he would fit so well in Pat Shurmur's offense. Really, I mean, just so versatile, a great player, Christian McCaffrey. But still,
if they didn't bring in Melvin Gordon, Christian McCaffrey would definitely be one of the names I'd be considering.
Yeah. What do you think about? It was a guy that was a free agent. I believe he got franchise tagged or from Minnesota, the safety. What's his name? Not Harrison Smith, the other guy.
Anthony Harris?
That's the one. What do you think about him?
Definitely be interesting. Definitely a guy that I'd bring in. But if I'm going to bring in a safety from any other team, I'm going to bring in Jamal Adams.
Oh, you bet. No, or Derwin James. Either one of those.
Oh, Derwin James would be a fantastic conviction.
Oh, he'd be an amazing fit. Oh, such an amazing fit.
Oh, all right.
Let's see here.
So I'll be nice. You got to pick one on offense and one for defense. We've mainly been talking about defense.
On offense, I'm taking Lane Johnson, right tackle from Philadelphia. I'm taking that immediately. On defense, I'm probably still going to go in the cornerback room. I'd probably go probably Trey White. I think that there's a lot of high upside there. The cornerback out of Buffalo, Tre'Davious White. That's the guy I'm going to bring in. Scheme transcendent. He can play man. He can play zone. Very good quality tackler as well. Drives on the football well. I like his click and close ability. But Lane Johnson solidifying that right tackle position for years to come. You bet, man. Give me that.
So, Juana, we'll get to your question just after this. I saw it earlier, and I definitely want to grab it before we get out of here. But for me, Ronnie Stanley, go get yourself a left tackle.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the whole thing with why people wanted Ryan Clady or Gary Zimmerman. You move number 72. There, I didn't say his name, to being your backup swing tackle, and you now have a outstanding left tackle there for you. Yep. And for the defense, I'm going to go with Aaron Donald. Just that tremendous pass rusher that you can have on there, just able to get pressure from anywhere on that defensive line. So much versatility. I'm a big guy for the trenches, so that's where I'm going to go. Because what he can bring, using him with Drill Casey, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, like you can do so much with your secondary and just let the pass rush do their job. I mean, you with those four guys, Chubb, Casey, Donald, and Miller, you can drop 8 reliably into coverage and let them just do their job. Darius Leonard, that is actually a good one too. I absolutely love Darius Leonard when he was coming out in the draft, and man, I wanted him so bad for the Broncos.
What a steal! What an absolute steal for the Colts. What, did they get him in the 3rd round? I believe was the 2nd or 3rd round pick, but just still an absolute steal. What 143. Still, regardless of when they got him, he could have been a first-round player, and for whatever reason he fell. And I believe it was probably just because linebacker is not a valued position like that anymore. But what he has done coming into this league and the 143 tackles or whatever it was his rookie season, automatic defensive player of the rookie defensive player of the year. man, him and Vic Fangio's defense would be so much fun to watch. He had 4 or 5 interceptions that year as well, a couple of sacks. Like, he was all over the place. In Vic Fangio's defense, where he can drop down. I saw this question. I was going to grab it here after this, but yeah, Darius Leonard would be a good one. Now, Bwana coming in here. I really do wonder, what first round bust would you like to attempt to try to develop in today's NFL? Does Tommy Maddox count? No, this is a good one. There was a linebacker that was drafted, I think, 3rd overall by the Ashley Lee. Yeah, he'd be a good.
I think he'd be such a tremendous fit in the modern NFL.
Yes, he would.
That it would just. Oof.
There was what was his name? He was out of Texas. It was a linebacker, defensive end, kind of a hybrid. Could play off ball, could play the edge.
Jarvis Moss.
No, not Jarvis Moss. He was drafted like 3 overall by the Seattle Seahawks in 2004, 2005, somewhere around in that area. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. One of the biggest busts in NFL history as far as a non-quarterback goes. Man,
I don't know if I'm looking at just the Broncos busts, so that's why like Jarvis Moss and these guys, they're coming to mind. But if we want to look at everyone,
Broncos first round bust, George Foster, offensive tackle out of Clemson. Marcus Nash, there was somebody dropped that name just a little bit ago. Marcus Nash, wide receiver. I can't remember where he was from. Early in the 90s, he was a first round pick in 97, 98, something like that, where the Broncos already had Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey, Byron Chamberlain as a tight end, Shannon Sharp, those guys. Marcus Nash was supposed to be brought in to be kind of a slot player that could play inside and outside, but he never actually panned out. Willie Middlebrooks is another good one there. Got to think here as far as Broncos first round draft busts. Hey, here you go. Ted Gregory. That was in the 80s, though.
the whole story with Ted Gregory is a funny one.
Yeah. Let's see here. Marcus Nash played for Tennessee. Thank you, Caleb, for that. We appreciate you jumping in and correcting me on that. Brian coming in here with a $2 donation. Jeff Okudah on D and a good young tackle to keep youth. Yeah, I agree with that. Erick with Ronnie Stanley was a really good one there. Laramie Tunsil would be an interesting one, but still, there's a lot of penalties there. Everyone was really – and I remember you and I got into it just a little bit. Laramie Tunsil was on the trade block.
So you can't sit there and on our Garrett Bowles fantastic episode that we had a few weeks ago, just sit there and trash on Laramie Tunsil.
I did it. I was about to again.
And you can't throw his name out with this one, man. You can't. You can't do that. I'm not going to let you.
Well, I was about to say there was a lot of intrigue with Laramie Tunsil, and you and I and Nick and Carl actually got into it on our group chat about how I thought Laramie Tunsil was extremely overrated, and you guys said that he was a top 5 left tackle in the NFL, and look who led the league in false start penalties after he got traded for. Like, Laramie Tunsil struggled immensely this year. And I said I wouldn't touch Laramie Tunsil. I would maybe give a 3rd round pick for him, if that. And the youth, the high upside and everything like that. You guys said, no, you got to give a first at least if you're going to do something like that. And I was like, no, I don't see it. I don't see it with Laramie
Tunsil. Bias.
It was confirmation bias. It was confirmation bias, but damn it, I was right. Okay.
No, you weren't.
I was too.
Yes, he led the league in false starts and everything, but his play wasn't terrible.
No, he wasn't bad. He gave up
the penalties suck and everything, but like false starts are false starts. 5 yards. I mean, it's a big deal, but
All right, so Kathleen coming in here really fast. Look back when the Broncos played in Super Bowl 32 and 33. Select any of those players on the defense. If you consider the defense, better look at the offense. Sharp, Rod Smith. Erick and I actually brought up Rod Smith, and because we wanted to do this as far as like a filling holes on the roster, Rod Smith was a guy that we kind of tossed out. However, Rod Smith is probably one of my favorite Broncos of all time. In fact, I think I have it on record that I said that he was my favorite Bronco of all time there for a long time. Von Miller's quickly changing that, but still, Rod Smith in this offense doesn't fit. I don't think there's just not room for him here. Not really a bad receiver by any stretch of the imagination, but just not athletic enough. And I think that with Pat Shurmur, what he's going to try to do, he wants athletes right now. And Cortland Sutton, maybe not be the fastest guy, but he is extremely athletic for his size. Jerry Jeudy, again, clicking like a good click and change of direction kind of an athlete. KJ Hamler as well. Easy Eddie would have been a good one. Ray Crockett, there you go. I love Ray. But the Darian Gordon would be the guy. If I was going to pick anybody off the defense there, it would be Darian Gordon. He was cornerback one opposite of Ray Crockett, punt returner as well. Very athletic, but he was a boomer bust kind of guy. He took a lot of chances. So reminds me a lot of Marcus Peters now, actually.
So going back to this draft bust from other teams and everything in the past, and I was looking up a list of draft busts, and Reggie Bush was on there.
Yeah.
And Reggie Bush in the modern NFL would be great. He was definitely ahead of his time, being that just weapon on there that teams now have everywhere. And so he would definitely be an interesting option. I don't agree that he was really a bust per se. I mean, he definitely didn't live up to expectations, so I guess that is a textbook definition of a bust. But he was still a solid player.
Yeah.
But he definitely would be interesting in the modern NFL game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Just coming out of USC and everything that he was doing, so dynamic. I don't think that he went to the right situation, honestly. So let's see, he was at the Saints, I believe, and they didn't really understand how to use him very much. And I think the fact that he was so extremely athletic at USC, and the way that they were using him as like a primary ball carrier, the way that the Saints wanted to use him more as a pass catcher, and he had that ability. It just, the athleticism on the outside, it didn't really translate for him, and unfortunately, he did flop out. Let's be honest about it. He did flop out. He failed to meet all the expectations. And sure, you could call him
your career for a running back.
I got the name that I wanted to think of. Aaron Curry. Aaron Curry out of Texas.
Yes.
Yep. If you had to take an athletic kind of a linebacker guy, I believe that was actually the same draft. If I'm not wrong, that might have been the same draft. But anyways, as far as a first round bust, if you're going to put him in Vic Fangio's scheme, Aaron Curry would have been a good fit. Other first round busts.
Going with Reggie Bush real quick too, is that the Saints, they actually got the most usage out of him. They used him as a runner and a receiver. He had more yards receiving than he did rushing for his rookie year. I mean, and most of his time there, it was very close. And then they just kind of started to move on and find other running backs and everything, just because he didn't really develop into that primary ball carrier that they wanted. But yeah, he's definitely his first 2 years, he had over 1,000 total yards from scrimmage his first year, 998 his second year, and then had 3 more years with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage when he was with Miami and Detroit in 2011 to 2013. Like I don't really agree that he was like a bust, because he did well for them.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he just failed to live up to that every down ball carrier that everyone thought he was going to be, and just dynamic player.
I remember that draft, and I remember a lot of people saying that he wasn't that guy. He wasn't that number one back. He was that number two back that you wanted to use as multiple ways. That's what I remember with Reggie Bush, is that if you're going to want him to be your bell cow back, you're making a mistake, which is one reason why I do think that the Saints did try to force him a little bit, which is why they gave up on him. But that's one reason why too, is that I think he was ahead of his time, because those types of backs didn't really start becoming a thing until 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Well, and there's a good name too. Bawana coming in with Lendale White. Should have drafted both of those guys. But anyways, going back to Reggie Bush, that's such a bad pick. If you're picking a guy to be your second back, your receiving kind of a back, why are you picking him number 2 overall?
That's what I'm saying, is that everybody that I saw was saying that that's not how he wanted to be, but the Saints wanted him to be that guy.
Right.
So I do agree that he didn't live up to expectations as a result, but I don't really want to call him a bust, because he performed well.
Yeah, he did perform well. He was a very good receiver, man. I don't disagree with you on that. It's just as a number 2 overall pick in the draft, if you're getting Reggie Bush production out of that, that's a bust, man. He was a great player. A good player, not a great player. I know how you get sometimes when people throw out the great word as compared to good. He was a good player. Let's just be honest about that. He was a very good player. I would have rather had Darren Sproles, though. I would have rather had LaShawn McCoy. I would have rather had who was the other? I would rather have a guy like Austin Eckler than a Reggie Bush. Honestly, I really would. Like, Reggie Bush was very good, but it was such a niche use, especially back then. Before you're right, you're absolutely right. He was completely ahead of his time in the NFL. Completely ahead of his time. Let's see here.
All right, guys, we're going to only have a little bit for a couple more questions before we got to get out of here.
My favorite stat was that Reggie Bush had -3 rushing yards for the season in 2016. And there you go. That just goes to, and that was.
He was drafted in 2006, so it was the last year of his career.
Yeah, it was like 10 years later. I was going to say it was a long time into his career. Oh, here's a player from another team that would actually fit amazingly. And this one, I think you could probably work in. Brian Greenfield coming in. Alvin Kamara. If you could put Alvin Kamara on this roster, man, I'd kick Philip Lindsay out in a heartbeat, honestly.
Yeah,
well,
if I'm bringing him in, I'm getting rid of Philip Lindsay. Plain and simple.
Huh?
If I'm bringing Alvin Kamara into this team, I'm getting rid of Philip Lindsay.
Yep. I was like, that's going to ruffle some feathers, especially on some people that listen to this afterwards.
Philip Lindsay's overrated.
Yes, he is. He's not that good of a receiver. Bad in pass blocking. At least Alvin Kamara can stand up in pass protection. And he's also
a receiver.
And as a receiver, holy cow! Like Melvin Gordon's going to be that bell cow back in this. And
the same thing with Christian McCaffrey too. Is I would take Christian McCaffrey, but I'm getting rid of Philip Lindsay.
Yep, absolutely. And that's not going to sit well with a lot of people, man. That's not going to
pay Philip Lindsay.
No, they shouldn't. I wrote an article about that a couple months ago, right after Austin Eckler got his contract extension. What was it, 4 years, $24 million or something like that is what Eckler got. And I said, that is not everyone's like, that's a baseline for Philip Lindsay. I'm like, no. Hold on. Wait a minute. That should
be the max for Philip Lindsay.
That should be more than what they pay Philip Lindsay, plain and simple. Like Austin Eckler has only had one great season, and it was mostly as a receiver. But still, Philip Lindsay as a runner between the tackles is awesome. As a receiver, as a pass protector, he can't catch the football out of the backfield very well. He's not a very good receiver. He doesn't offer very much versatility. Yeah, he's a speed player, but you can only use your speed so much. If you can't get to the outside, then what's the point?
He's not really a speed player either. Like, he doesn't have great speed. He just relies on quickness, and he's very quick. But quickness is better when you can execute those outside runs better than Philip Lindsay can. He doesn't want to. He wants to run between the tackles, which, as James Campbell shows up, that he mentions, he doesn't have the size to hold up in pass protection. He doesn't have the size to hold up as a between the tackle runner that he wants to be either.
Nope.
Like, don't get me wrong. Philip Lindsay's been good for the Broncos. He's got a lot of mileage on his tires already. Was a little bit of an older rookie. And the story is fantastic. The whole thing that his mom told him to go to the Broncos instead of the Ravens, undrafted free agent when he shouldn't have been. I definitely agree he should have been drafted. But yeah, it's just the story with him a little bit, being the Colorado guy, like coming in, like, hey, 2,000 yards rushing years, like that's great. Like, hats off to you. But that doesn't mean he's a great player that should get this huge contract.
No, I agree they should pay him, but not a big money deal like Austin Eckler got. If they're going to bump him up, then bump him up. 3 years, $15 million maybe. Like that, we're not going out of the realm of huge money or anything like that. He also did have what I think you said it was just shy of 1,000 total touches, and that includes returns at Colorado. So you had a big thing about injuries coming out of college with over 1,000 touches, and there was only one or two guys that had successful careers. One of them was, I think, Tony Dorsett, and this one back to what, like 1990 or something like that, and the other one was
To be fair, and what I was looking at too was guys who also had major injury concerns in their career too, which was because it was more of a comparison with Royce Freeman than Philip Lindsay. But there is a lot of things there that out of, I can't remember the number. I saw somebody do it, of guys who have over like 900 total touches or 950 total touches in their college career. Only like less than like 30% of them go on to have like long productive like NFL careers. So definitely something to be considered there. And before we get out of here, I actually like this question quite a bit from David. If you guys play Madden, who would be your starting tight end out of anyone from any roster? And if I had to pick one tight end from any roster for Madden, I'm going with Zach Ertz.
Yep. Yeah, Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce would be another good one. I love Travis Kelce. I hate him so much.
He got punked by Von Miller as a blocker. That's all that needs to be said.
Yeah, I know, but still, he
got punked.
I hate him. Everything. He's still such a really good tight end, and he kills the Broncos every single time they play. They have no answer for him.
Not every single time. He got
more often than not, 90% of the time. He got punked by Von Miller. Sure,
he got punked by Von Miller. That's all that needs to be said.
He goes off. Stop it, Please stop it. All right, guys.
Do you want me to pull up the stats of his real quick? Because I just did it for my video about the Chiefs for this upcoming season. Like, there are some games where he really does go off against the Broncos, but it's not as many as people really seem to think.
I know he had he has like 4 or 5 games with like 6 or 7 catches against the Broncos.
Sure, catches are great. How many yards is he getting?
60 yards. So like 10 yards a catch. All right, let's see here. Guys, we'll let Eric pull that up, but we're going to have to end up cutting this short. Not really short. We are at 58 minutes on the live stream here. So we're going to.
4 catches, 81 yards. All right, that's a pretty solid one. 3 for 36. All right. 4 for 58.
It's a decent game.
5 for 36. All right, where's the next one? So here's one where he really tore up the Broncos. 8 catches, 101 yards. All right, that's a pretty good one. And then this is 2016. 11 for 150. Yeah, he really tore up the Broncos that season. Let's see here. 7 for 133. All right, there you go. There's another one.
Yeah.
And
he's a pretty dang good tight end, and I'm going to take him against.
He's a solid tight end too. But yeah, he got punked by Von Miller as a blocker. That's all that matters.
All righty, guys. Any last questions while I do this? I'm going to get us out of here with our quick matters of business. We'll grab 1 or 2 after this. But anyways, guys, make sure you are doing a few things here. Make sure you're following me and Eric on Twitter. You can find me at Sanderson, MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, make sure you guys are following at DVDD_pod. You do all 3 of those things. We're going to announce a big giveaway here soon. Hat, t-shirt, Dove Valley Deep Diver swag coming out of there on that. It'll be here in the next couple of weeks or so. We'll get that figured out between us and our private time. If you do have, or at least in the financial standing to do so, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a hat, get yourself a hoodie, do whatever you got to do to support the cause in that way. And if you really can't do so, there are 3 things that you guys can do that are the easiest way to support the show and help us grow, get in front of many Broncos fans' eyes as possible. Subscribe wherever you're watching us. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, anything like that. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Subscribe to the Huddle Up podcast. That's a great way to boost our numbers just a little bit. Number 2, like every video you guys see. Everything that we put out there, click the like button. It's the easiest way to support the show. And if you really like or love what we're doing there, share it out. Get it in front of as many Broncos fans as possible. Those are the 3 easiest ways to support and help us grow and help us do what we do and what we love to do, which is cover your Denver Broncos for you guys. Now, let's come back here, grab another question or 2 before we get out of here. Ooh, Jinja with a good question here. How deadly can the Lindsey-Gordon combo truly be? I think it would be scary for opposing defenses. I feel the media is trying to create a personal beef between them. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag don't stack the box. Hashtag firepower. Eric, what do you think? This is actually a pretty good question.
I think they can be a very fine duo, but if they really want to be dangerous, Philip Lindsay needs to step it up as a receiver. Plain and simple. He needs to step it up as a receiver in his outside runs. If they really want to be a deadly duo, that's what has to happen. If that doesn't happen, I think they can be a good duo, but I don't think they'd be a deadly duo.
I actually agree 100% with that. Just the impact of Melvin Gordon as a receiver is going to boost the 2 of them, but still, Philip Lindsay has to step up in that aspect. He has to step up in pass protection. You can't trust the guy on 3rd downs right now. You can trust him running between the tackles. He's got to be a little bit more explosive and more decisive when he's running outside of the tackles. He needs to get more downhill, hit that one cut and go, and stop being so hesitant and try to make that big play. His wrist, I don't know exactly. Bawana coming in saying, how's his wrist? We don't know exactly how that is. He did have that wrist injury his rookie season, took him out for the last couple of games. I believe he had surgery and got it fixed. He looked pretty good last year, but still, Philip Lindsay, if this team wants to have a dynamic 1-2 punch, and yeah, I agree with the article that was written on Bleacher Report a couple days ago, where the guy that wrote the article, I don't know who it was, said that Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon was the number 2 running back duo in the NFL total behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But if they want to have that dynamic 1-2 punch like that, Philip Lindsay has to be able to do it all on all 3 downs. Melvin Gordon is a true 3-down back. He's a very good receiver out of the backfield, very good in pass protection. There's durability concerns there, but at the same time, Melvin Gordon is a very, very good running back. And if Philip Lindsay can match or at least come to like 3/4 of that production, you're talking at least 2,000 yards total rushing between the 2 of them.
What star player do you think wouldn't have been as good if they weren't on their the team they went on. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't think Tom Brady would be Tom Brady that we know if it wasn't for Bill Belichick. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady can't play. I think that they really helped him out earlier, along with the team that they had and the situation, him being able to take the field. I definitely think that helped him out quite a bit. I don't think he would be the same player.
There's an interesting statistic going back regarding Tom Brady and Bill Belichick as far as like the defenses that Tom Brady has had with him. I think there was only like 2 in his entire career that were below like 12th in the NFL as far as like total defense was concerned. The defenses that Tom Brady has had in his career have been phenomenal, and especially early in his career, he had top 5 defenses every single year. They helped carry him to the Super Bowls, and yeah, he managed the game and did very well. But about the 2006-2007 season, so 5 or 6 years into Tom Brady's career, that is when we saw the Tom Brady start to step up and do the things that we know and really hate but love with Tom Brady. You know, managing the line of scrimmage, controlling the offense from the snap, and making those correct decisions, getting the ball out quick, making his offensive line look a lot better. But early in his career, man, if he wasn't in that kind of a scenario where he stepped in with a very good offense already, he had Troy Brown, there was another wide receiver, I forget his name, had a very good offensive line, but still Richard Seymour, Rodney Harrison, Ty Law, that defense that the Patriots had, if Tom Brady doesn't step into that situation, we're probably not looking at the Tom Brady we are seeing right now.
Now, real quick before we get out of here, to flip that over, which star player that I think could have been even better? Aaron Rodgers. I think that Mike McCarthy definitely held him, or whatever his name, Mike McCarthy? Is that the coach's name?
Yep, Mike McCarthy. Yep.
I didn't think that he held them back a little bit, and their lack of willingness to really put weapons around them consistently. I think that he would have been, if he was with Bill Belichick, I think that he would have been awesome.
Man, they would have won 4 Super Bowls in a row.
But guys, we got to get out of here. We are past our hour limit. We're going to get in trouble.
No, we'll be all right. I do want to say one quick thing before I bid everybody adieu. Going back to the first round bust that you would like to see, and if you could resurrect his career, wide receiver out of Oklahoma State by the name of Justin Blackmon. He had so much potential.
He was an athlete.
He was a really good athlete. He was a
cornerback. He was an athlete.
Huh?
He was an athlete. He didn't have much potential to play cornerback.
No, not cornerback. He was a wide receiver.
Oh, who am I thinking of? The cornerback out of
Julian Blackmon is who you're thinking of.
That's what I'm thinking of.
No, Justin Blackmon was the number 4 overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2008, and he had so much potential. Great route runner, really smooth hands, really good. Had a very good, interesting story about a girl that he had kind of taken under his wing and went and support. Like, she was a big supporter of him at Oklahoma State. She had leukemia or something like that, a young girl, and he wore a wristband on his hand every day. But then he got into drugs and alcohol and just flopped completely. But if there was anybody that you could, if I could resurrect that career and tap into that potential and make into a superstar, Justin Blackmon was that guy. I mean, he was one of my favorite players to watch, really. All right. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all once again for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Again, follow us on Twitter at Sanderson MHH for Eric, at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Eric, the EL in Trickel. Also, again, follow at DVDD_pod. Get in on this giveaway we're going to be doing here in the next couple weeks. But with that, guys, you all stay safe. Take care. Have a great Memorial Day, a great safe weekend. Please be safe out there.
And we will see you Friday, but not next Saturday.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys. Anyways, with that, you guys have a great evening. Stay safe and take care. We'll see you guys next week.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.